Part 4. The House's Dark Heart, 2,000 to 2,500 words. Lena's heart raced as she stood frozen in place, staring at the figure in the mirror. It wasn't hers. She knew it wasn't. The silhouette was darker, shapeless, yet undeniably human in form, with a faint outline of a face, just barely visible, as if it were a ghost, not quite willing to reveal itself fully. Her breath caught in her throat, her pulse echoing in her ears. The room around her seemed to close in, as if the walls were pressing in on her, suffocating her with their oppressive weight. The figure in the mirror did not move. It remained still, its presence haunting yet somehow familiar. Lena took a step forward, her heart pounding in her chest, but the figure did not shift. She could feel her own reflection. The movement of her body as she stepped forward, the way the light played against her hair, was normal. But the shadow behind her, it wasn't right. In a frantic blur of motion, Lena turned around, her eyes darting to every corner of the room. The hallway was empty. There was no one there. Nothing. Only the cold, still air. She spun back to face the mirror, breathing heavily. The figure had not disappeared. It remained there, standing just behind her reflection, as if it had always been there. Lena raised her hand, trembling, as if to touch the glass, but the faintest whisper in her mind told her not to. Something deep inside her warned her against touching it. Something about this reflection was different. A soft scraping sound broke the silence, and Lena jumped, her hand instinctively reaching for the door frame. The sound was faint, but unmistakable, a dragging noise, like nails on glass, followed by a low, guttural sound that seemed to come from beyond the mirror. Her breath caught in her throat. No, this can't be happening. She had thought she'd severed the bond. She had believed the shadow was gone, freed into whatever dark corner it had originated from. But now, standing here in the dim light of the hallway, Lena realized just how wrong she had been. The shadow had never left. It had simply retreated. Lena staggered backward, her mind spinning. The mirror seemed to pulse, the figure shifting ever so slightly, as if aware of her presence. It reached toward her, but its arms were still bound, frozen in place. Still, it was close. So close that Lena could almost feel its icy breath on her neck. Get out, she whispered to herself, but her feet refused to move. She had to act. She couldn't let it consume her, whatever it was. She needed to do something, anything, before it was too late. The house groaned in response, the sound of the old timbers creaking under the weight of something unseen, something ancient. The temperature seemed to drop again, and Lena shivered, her mind racing. She thought of the journal, of the cryptic writings Eliza had left behind. She thought of the warning she had ignored, the hints that the mirror was not just a window into another world, but into a curse, a never-ending cycle of torment. The shadow in the mirror was not just a figment of her imagination. It was not merely a haunting. It was something real. A presence that had been tied to the house, to the very fabric of her life, for as long as she could remember. Her mother had known about it, too. Lena had always wondered why her mother had left them, why she had disappeared without a trace, leaving only a cryptic message on a faded piece of paper. You can never escape what you are. Lena shuddered at the thought, her fingers brushing the edge of the door frame as she stepped back into the hallway. She wasn't sure what had driven her mother to abandon her, but she was beginning to understand. There was something about this house, something dark that bound people to it, and Lena was no exception. But how could she escape it? How could she break free from the shadow that loomed over her? The mirror behind her trembled again, and she turned to face it, her pulse quickening. The figure had moved closer, its face now more distinct. She could see the faint outline of hollow eyes staring at her, a wide, twisted grin on its face. It was almost human, but there was nothing in its eyes. Only emptiness. The reflection began to distort. The room in the mirror shifted, warping and bending like an illusion, and Lena's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't her room anymore. It was something else, something darker, more sinister. The walls seemed to stretch, becoming impossibly high, while the floor warped, twisting beneath her feet. She could hear the faint sound of whispers, muffled and distant, as if voices were calling to her from deep within the glass. Lena! The voice echoed, familiar but distant, like a long-lost memory. It was her mother's voice. Her knees weakened, and Lena stumbled backward, her hand reaching out for anything to steady herself. Her fingers brushed the cold wood of the hallway table, and she gripped it tightly, willing herself to stay upright. No, she whispered, her voice trembling. This isn't real. But even as she said the words, she knew that it was. The shadow in the mirror, the twisting reflection, it was all real. It had always been real. A sudden surge of panic gripped Lena. She had to escape. She had to get away from the house, from this cursed place. But no matter how hard she tried, Her feet wouldn't move. She was trapped, her mind locked in place, staring at the reflection that seemed to grow ever closer. The whispers intensified, filling the room with an overwhelming pressure. The air felt thick, almost suffocating. And then, through the haze of fear and confusion, she heard the most chilling sound of all. The sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, and coming from behind her. Lena whirled around, but there was no one there. The hallway was empty, just as it had been before. Yet the footsteps were unmistakable, growing louder, closer. She spun back to the mirror, her breath coming in shallow gasps. And there, in the reflection, was a figure that was not her own. It was a man, tall and gaunt, with hollow eyes that burned with an eerie intensity. His face was a mask of shadow, but Lena could see his lips curling into a twisted smile. He stepped forward, his movements slow, deliberate, as if he was savoring the moment. The whispering grew louder, merging with the sound of the footsteps, until Lena couldn't tell what was real anymore. Was he in the mirror? Was he behind her? Was he here, in the house, waiting for her to make a move? Lena took a step backward, her heart hammering in her chest. The man in the reflection stepped forward again, his face now inches from the glass. His smile widened, and for the first time, Lena saw the truth in his eyes. This wasn't just a shadow. This was something far darker, something that had been waiting for her to open the door. And now, it was time to pay the price.